And now, time for weekly show with a passionate India lover, chairman of ITV Gold and Parikh Worldwide Media. Get ready for loving sharing from physician, philanthropist, publisher, and India advocate in this week. Once again, namaskar to you with our viewers.
Namaskar, namaskar.
And while there are many things happening in the world right now, everybody is focused on Afghanistan. We'll begin with that. And in this context, Dr. Sahab, allow me to connect with you on 31st August deadline. How do you see it working out to evacuate everyone safely?
Well, I think practically speaking, or what you can, if you can read between the lines, I think the deadline will be extended, and US's troop will be there for a while in the Kabul till all the nationals are evacuated from the Afghanistan, including those Afghanis who helped the USA soldiers or ally soldier in last 20 years. So I think the deadline is not important in a sense that they will negotiate. I think what I heard this morning even that government is talking to chief of Taliban and negotiating so they have flexibility of extending the deadline, because deadline is too short, and I think it was mistake by President Biden, but now I think they are going to correct it.
So what you said is the common perception, and logically and in a reasonable way, this sounds correct. But what we have officially heard from White House as well as from the spokesperson of Taliban, who kind of used threatening expressions, saying that if they extend further from 31st August, they will have to bear the consequences. So
well, that's a political rhetoric. I mean, it's not something serious. That's how people bargain with each other, So they take a hard stand and then they soften out,
So I know I'm kind of repeating it, but the statement coming from Biden administration saying that they will make sure that they don't have to extend, though as you said, they also recognize that it is not going to be practical, and
not going to be practical. It's not going to be practical. Even UK Prime Minister said the same thing. That it's not going to be practical, and you have to be there till everything is safely out.
And now coming back to America's image in the world, in the aftermath of what is taking place in Afghanistan, do you think there is a need for urgent damage control on the part of America, in addition to making sure that they succeed in evacuating all those which need to be brought out?
Well, I think they have to be successfully bring out all the individuals who wants to come out, who needs to come out, and as long as no other major disaster happens, like shooting down of the airplane or killing of the few hundred Afghanis, then I think people will forget this debacle of Biden administration, not debacle, but mismanagement of evacuation. But overall, American public is in the support of Biden. That is a time to leave Afghanistan, and that's why there is not major consequences in the next election. That's what we are thinking about,
So there are two sides of it. One, when you are looking at it as sitting in America as an American, if you are somewhere away from America and looking at America, even if you are an American, then probably you will have a different prism to assess the current situation. And as most of the analysts are saying, that this is kind of a declaration of sort that America is unseated from being a superpower. Do you see that?
Again, there is also kind of political rhetoric America being a superpower will remain superpower for a long time, because you don't become superpower overnight. I mean, or there is nobody else. There is no other superpower is in existence right now anyway. So because you become superpower when you have enough wealth, your economy is stronger than anyone else, and your currency is stronger than anyone else, and defense equipments or defense budget is stronger than anyone else. I don't think anybody can replace as a superpower, and anybody cannot take away that title from the USA.
Yeah. So allow me to bring to your attention the current scenario as we see it today, where we have a terror group now becoming a legitimate authoritative ruling figure for a country like Afghanistan, and then America have to negotiate with Talibanis for safe passage to its own citizens from Afghanistan. That doesn't give you image of a superpower. Another consideration, you took all these modern arms and artilleries and whatnot, and that is now in the possession, including drones, in the possession of Taliban. So it kind of puts a little bit of genuine question mark down. Don't you see that way?
Not really, not really, because the way you are describing, I mean, of course, logically, any common person will describe that way, but the politics doesn't work that simply, you know. It's not in politics. Never 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 1 could be 2, or 1 + 1 could be 11. You know. So politics is different game, and having because USA wanted to come out of the Afghanistan, so they did it, and they have to leave those equipments there because it's a very heavy equipment. There's no way they can take it out, and it is more expensive to take it out than leave it. And it always happens in the war. At the conclusion of the war, the country who won the war always leaves so many things behind, and so many both military-wise as well as economy-wise. So you cannot say like you cannot. I don't think we can judge like that. So I'm not worried about that. You know.
I'm glad to hear that viewpoint, because the general narrative is not in sync with what you are saying, and there we hear some whispers of discontent from the allied countries who have worked with America, and they went there because America wanted them to be there, and it was a kind of initiative of America which brought all of them to Afghanistan. And now they feel that they didn't get their fair share from America. That is the general discussion we have these days.
Well, I mean, they already got compensated fairly for their participation in Afghanistan. And so I don't think that is true either, because, and number two, in any war, in Korean War or Vietnamese War, all the ally has to follow what America wants them to follow. And that's why America is still superpower. And little disgruntlement I mean, just those disgruntling is just to satisfy their own people, own audience, kind of, you know, in their own country. But none of this ally country can have stature or power or means to take America or disobey the leadership of America.
So that's one way of looking at the current scenario and America's position in the world. Let us also consider the purpose with which America have had its presence in Afghanistan, and then the issues related to human rights and women's rights. And so the images which are coming from Afghanistan are very disturbing. You must have also seen some of them. If some people raised Afghani flag, there were open shootouts. and there are videos doing around where some women are being stoned to death. So all these things, I know we sitting in America, or America has no business to run another country, but now this trickles down as a blame on American policy. You want to say something about that?
Again, any war, when the war ends, is always ugly and messy. So this is what's happening right now, because you have to. American population by large majority wants America to come out of the Afghanistan after 20 years, because America went there to defeat the terrorism and not to be national building, but in 20 years America has done so much good thing in Afghanistan. All the road construction, infrastructures, and make the social life different, educate the people. So I think America has contributed a lot of positive thing to Afghanistan. And now is up to Afghanistan. Now they are aware of what is good and what is bad. And so I'm sure that ultimately, if Taliban doesn't behave properly, or they act like a terrorist, oppressive regime, then obviously the people of Afghanistan and themselves will change them.
So, Dr. While I hear your take on Afghan situation and America's role, still there are some questions which would always remain. But you have shared another point of view which is not in the media. Most of the time what we hear is America is at the receiving end of all the blames, and they say that the airport, which is under the control of America as well as other NATO forces, just outside that airport you see many ugly scenes. So when you say that if Taliban doesn't behave, Taliban is already not behaving in a human fashion that we are seeing. So now, leaving aside America, what do you see the future of Afghanis at the moment, if just what your imagination or projection about it?
Well, my guess is most of the Afghanis, those who helped the USA and its allies in last 20 years, they all will be out from Afghanistan. They will be able to get out of Afghanistan with the help of the USA and UK. And now, as I understand that American soldiers has expanded their kind of realm beyond the airport. And also, this morning report says that there might be American troops may stay even longer than small contingency troop may stay longer there till everything gets settled down. So I think, yes, America made a kind of little, did not do proper preparation to evacuate people. I agree with that. That created a chaos, plus they put the deadline, and that always when you put the deadline, most of the people, those who are afraid of staying back there, they want to get out of it. And everybody wants to get out on the same day, and that's why the whole chaos happens. And that is unfortunate, but usually it is expected at the end of any war. If you look at the Vietnam War, the same thing happened. In Korean War, same thing happened. Even World War II, same thing happened. And so that's how ugly part of any war.
So now this was a war, yet it was not exactly a war of that sort. But now coming back to the current situation, many Afghanis are also fleeing from Afghanistan. And so the question about them taking refuge in this or that country has also emerged, and many Western countries, including America, are giving some number that they'll take 10,000 or 3,000, things like that. But that is too less a number. How would you look at this need for Afghanis to flee from their country and the situation that it would create for those countries which take these refugees?
Well, I think I'm sure that a lot of Afghanis, those who help the Americans and the Westerners, soldiers, they want to get out because they fear the kind of revenge or retaliation from the Taliban. And other Afghanis also knows that Taliban is not very desirable government, and therefore they also want to get out of from the Afghanistan to have a better life for themselves and their children. So it's bound to happen, and there will be a huge exodus of the Afghanis from the Afghanistan, and not only in the Western countries, but they will be in India. Indian government has already declared that they're going to accept a lot of refugees from the Afghanistan, not only Hindus or Sikhs, but also Afghanis. So that's a part of the whole equation, and that's going to bound to happen. And let's see how it happens, how smooth it goes, and so forth. You know?
So, Dr. Sahab, talk to me a little bit about your perception for increased threat for India's security with the rise of Taliban.
There is a real threat to India because Taliban is anti-India in their philosophy and their ideology, and they are known to be kind of against the India, against the Hinduism, against the Hindutva, and I will not be surprised that they can make a lot of mischief and problem for India. But Indian government has to be very vigilant, make sure that they counteract those part, and they must somehow get involved in Afghanistan with the Afghanistan government to make sure that all this thing doesn't happen.
So, Dr. Sahab, as we heard the first press conference of Taliban, they promised to work with other countries, and they said they would not go for revenge and everybody should feel safe. They also said that India should finish the projects, developmental projects which India has undertaken in Afghanistan. Do you see if that happens, then there is likely to be better relationship between India and Taliban?
Well, I mean, I hope so, because I mean, what Taliban is saying, I hope they follow that or they implement that, because otherwise there will be a problem, a lot of challenges for India. And but Taliban has not good history that what they say they don't do it, and therefore most of the time we get disappointed. And so hopefully we should not get disappointed. They should tell what they should do, what they are saying it, and let's see what happens. Time will tell us whether they are right or wrong. You know.
Absolutely. And as we conclude today's conversation, going to another theme slightly, which is we have a new governor in New York, and Kathy brings her own experience of being a public servant. Your impression about New York having probably the first female governor?
I think it's a very congratulations to the new governor. She is the first woman governor in the state of New York history. I think she has a lot of groundwork done so far in last few years. She's been to almost every county of the state, and I think she sounds like, and she talks like, and she whatever she's saying creates a lot of hope and a lot of good feeling that she will be a successful governor. And let's hope so, and we wish her to be a very successful governor. God bless America, God bless India, God bless Indian American, and goodbye. We'll see you next week. Thank you.